Welcome, everybody, to Freelance Writing Direct. I'm your host, Estelle Erasmus, the author of Writing That Gets Noticed, Find Your Voice, Become a Better Storyteller, Get Published, which was named by Poets and Writers a best book for writers. Every week, I speak with novelists, with authors, with writers of every niche to talk about their tips, their tricks, their strategies, and how the sauce is made, including creative advice. I'll talk about essays and articles and share my own experience from 3 decades of publishing. So join me every week and grow your business and build your craft with Freelance Writing Direct. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. And follow along on Substack, where I share special clips for subscribers only at estelleserasmus.substack.com. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Freelance Writing Direct. I'm your host, Estelle Erasmus, and today I have a mother-daughter team with us, and I'm so delighted to have Gayle Kirschenbaum and Mildred Kirschenbaum, her mother. Gayle has written the book Bullied to Besties, A Daughter's Journey to Forgiveness. And let me introduce Gayle. She's an Emmy-winning filmmaker, photographer, writer, and coach. Her film, Look at Us Now, Mother, premiered on Netflix and has been credited with transforming lives. Her TED Talk is No More Drama with Mama. Gayle co-authored Mildred's Mindset, Wisdom from a Woman Centenarian with her mother, and her film A Dog's Life, a Dogumentary, premiered on HBO. Gayle and her work have been featured in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Shondaland, The Ethel, and on national television. And Bullied to Besties, A Daughter's Journey to Forgiveness is her debut memoir. And Mildred, at 102, is joining us, and she is known for her viral life advice, and she's an influencer, and her positive attitude and love for socializing have endeared her to many. And with her daughter, Gayle, they've been sharing Mildred's hard-earned wisdom with the world. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have to start with something that obviously you talk about in the book a lot, and it's your hair. And as somebody who's obsessed with hair myself, okay, I can relate. So there's some issue with your hair today. We'll just start with that because it is in the book as well. Go ahead, Gayle.
Mom's not happy. You want to say where you're not happy?
No.
Yeah, share.
What do you
If
mean,
you-
no?
If you want to look this way, fine. Instead of looking 70, you look 80.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in here because I think Gayle looks beautiful. I think her hair, however she wants to wear it, it showcases her features. But I hear that you have a preference. You're very specific about your preferences for how you want Gayle to look, to act, to be in this world.
If you look at all of the photos of her on TV with picturing something, look at her face there and look at it here. You see the difference?
Again, beauty is definitely in the eye of the beholder, and it's also how
I
somebody
agree with
feels
you.
about themselves. Now, I understand it's a personal feeling how you feel about your hair, right? So Gayle is feeling a certain way about her hair. And as her mother, and I'm the mother of a teenage daughter, she's 16, you have to allow her that agency.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want your listeners to know what specifically is bothering her today about my hair. So I have very curly hair, but I have blown it straight. She likes it straight, but I put
Or
it up.
curly.
I put it up in a ponytail to get it away from my face. And she thinks it gives me 10 more years. She thinks I'm actually 70. I'm almost 71. So she thinks I look 80 now. and she's been miserable that I have refused to let my hair down.
This really ties in with the whole theme of the book,
Right.
which is, do you want to say like a little bit of a nutshell of what the book is about, Gayle? And then we'll get into what's going on here.
Okay, so I want everybody to know that I'm the youngest of three. I had two older brothers. And I say we got off to a bad start when mom thought she was having Gary when she gave birth to Gail. And there was shaking her head.
Well, because
Well, it's all in the book.
I know, but it's your interpretation. I had two boys, and they had a test, a saliva test, that would give you 50% of what you would give birth to. How stupid I am that I took it. And it came out it's going to be another boy. So we prepared a name.
50%.
So we prepared the name of Gary. And Gail interpreted it that I didn't want to have a girl. I wanted another boy. Come on, you're a mother. You're a mother. After you have, if you have two girls, what do you want? A boy. You have two boys, you want a girl.
So you wanted a girl.
So she can't understand it. Not my problem.
Excuse me, this might be more of a reality show than a podcast.
It's okay.
This will be very different than your usual ones. But
it is already.
Yes, Mom, you always say that I'm not good at math, but I do know what 50% means. So, well, and if you read in the book, right? My brothers were all told Gary was coming home. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'll tell my story, then you could tell your story. So I was raised with a lot of harshness and abuse targeted towards me and not towards my brothers. And then they kind of joined in. It was like she was sort of giving orders, put your sister on the refrigerator, hold her down, go into her bedroom, break that door, whatever it was. So they were like the bouncers. So it was not a good time for me. And I came out of the womb, and I'm sure you have a lot of writers and creative people, and we tend to be super sensitive. I came out of the womb hypersensitive, seeing and feeling everything. And I will go even further to say, and I don't know who believes this or not, I feel I came in as an old soul into a family of new souls. I feel like I came with some knowledge, and they didn't know how to deal with me. She didn't know how to deal with me. And so I couldn't be molded into what she wanted. The big thing was always my hair. I have very curly hair, and I wore it down, and she said, it's out to here, it's out to there. I wouldn't have the nose job because when I grew up, the time and place I grew up, Dr. Diamond was doing them. So,
The ski slope.
right, the ski slope, right, the signature nose job. And so she was trying to mold me. I was supposed to be the school teacher, go to the school with the education department. I picked the state school that didn't. And it was a lot of double standards where things were more important for the boys than the girls. I was supposed to marry, have babies, and go back to teaching. I did none of the above. So I left home very young. The social worker said, get out of the house. I went to university up to Binghamton very young. And so now I was 200 miles away. I'm just going to make this really quick. And I found my people. I wasn't going home where there would be irrational rage targeted at me. So when you are living in that state, you're in a state of fight or flight. So it affected me physically. I had headaches and nausea all the time, throwing up all the time, dizzy spells. As soon as I left home at 16, no more headaches. So cut to, I ended up in entertainment. I moved to LA, was having career success, winning awards, featured all over the media. And then I would fly back home, and it would be the same dynamic. And I'd be in my 40s, and it would be the constant criticism, bullying from her, from my brothers who went off to become professionals. And it was hard. And so I would give it back. I would react. I'd go home. And my friends would say, just cut it off with your family. And I kept thinking that the pain of estrangement would be greater than not. And so that's when the light bulb went off. And I knew the solution would be I have to figure out how to forgive her and then my brothers.
And so you did that.
I did.
And that's the subject of your TED Talk. So, Mildred, what's your perspective on this? And then I want to dive into what you cover exactly in the book. Go ahead.
When a mother says no to a child, it's not because the mother's malicious. It's because the child is doing something that's not right, and they should know. But it's the way the child interprets it. There isn't 1 minute of my life from the time they handed me Gayle and said, you had a girl, that I stopped loving her. Not a minute. To today, Gayle could say things and cut me off at the knees, but I still love her. She can't do anything to me to make me stop loving her. She cannot understand that. I always said, I wish she had a child. She'd understand.
She used to say, I wish you'd have a child like you when I was growing up. So what I think everybody needs to know that I am her full-time caregiver and we've become best friends and social media influencers. So she's now become my life. And so she will literally hang up on me today mid-sentence and I'll call back 5 minutes later. Where do you want to go to happy hour? It just has no impact at all.
Right.
You don't hold grudges. I
Right.
argued every day of my life with my husband for different things. But when we got through with the argument, we were finished. Do you want soup? Do you want salad? And we moved on. Same thing with Gayle and I today. We don't hold grudges. We can hang out. I can hang up or something, and then she'll call me or I'll call her and say, you want to go here and there? And that's it.
I need people to know because I made a film about our relationship. I did a TED talk about it, and now I have the memoir. She is my best story consultant. Even when I'm talking about how horrific she was with me, I've hired professional consultants. So she has this ability to step away from herself and know when it's a good story, when it's too much, cut this. It's pretty remarkable.
Because she's tough, and so her toughness, it expands to the other parts. And she also has this showmanship part to her, so wanting to be center stage. So the influencer thing works pretty well.
Give me her script to read that
You'll do it.
battering me from pillar to post, and I will read it, and I'll say, you have to take this line out or that line.
It's remarkable.
To me, the crux of the whole thing, the way that you talk about some of the abuse in the book, and somebody said to you how horrible, and it was published that way, and your mother said, I don't care. There's no such thing as bad press. I'm on the cover of the Washington Post, and that works for me. So that's the nutshell of it. Okay, let's get into the book because you deal with a lot of flashbacks in the book, Gayle. First of all, you say you never expected to write the book and you changed names to certain parts. And then the prologue is your brothers grabbing you and kind of punishing you and hoisting you on top of the refrigerator as like a punishment. So how was that decision made to start with the refrigerator, which is an example of the abuse that was your lived experience, and then getting into therapy, making that the point, the present moment of the memoir, not today, but like that's where you're starting from. How did you make those decisions?
So I wanted to grab the audience right into my pain. I wanted them to feel my pain. So the prologue was what scene that happened in my childhood that was so traumatic that the audience will connect with me or they'll connect with the character. So that's why I went right there to that moment where I ended it saying, when I was young, I used to wish that she would die, but she never did. And then what's the final line? You have it there.
You said, I'll do that last part. By the time I hit middle age, I was still that little girl, angry, invisible, and desperate for love. I couldn't go on that way. I had to find a way to stop being a victim. I had to transform my life. I had no idea if that was even possible. This is the story of how I did it anyway. So that's powerful because it's saying that you acknowledge how you started and you're in a different place. And then you get into the dialogue of you erupting in therapy, saying words that you would like to say to your mother.
Right. So I then thought I want to structure the book where at the point in my life when I said I had enough, I can't keep going back home. This is when I said I was in LA and I had this great, and then I was going back and forth, and then I moved back to New York. And I realized this is just eating away at me. It's affecting everything. That when you hang on to this anger, resentment towards those who have hurt us, it only impacts us, right? It just infects everything in our lives. So I realized that I have to figure this out and I have to go on this journey. So then I was seeking help. And so I did find this one therapist who worked with artists. I thought this would be good if I could work with someone who knows how to work with artists. And I decided to cut right in chapter 1, right in the dialogue, because the therapist said, if you can say it, what would you say to your mother? Because I had just come back. I was middle-aged. I just came back from a visit in Florida, again, expecting to have a nice, normal time. And it was just relentless criticisms and bullying. And there it is. It just comes like vomit out of my mouth.
So how did you pick and choose from the flashbacks that you could potentially pull from of your childhood?
Good question. So this book was much bigger. It was much longer. I went back in my life and I literally outlined scenes that I recalled that had tremendous impact on me. And so there were so many scenes. And I have to say that I did get the publisher before I had an editor. I did give it to some people to read that were not actually writers who helped me eliminate some of the chapters. And then I did have some more happier chapters. It was interesting. My editor said, stick with your mother being brutal. And so a lot of those went out. They went out. Yeah. So it's just sort of staying on track with the message, which is the relentless abuse and bullying. And then I hit a point and now, well, there was one, believe it or not, I remember being in it. It was X'd out of the book, but I remember being an infant in a crib, and it's a whole other scene that we took out. But after that, I'd say this is where we start, like a few years old, very young, with the shoelace scene.
So you set up your mother's behavior, and then you set up also in chapter 6 your dad and who he is. And he worked as a funeral director. And you talk about your dad and then the relationship with your mother also, and kind of how you just, when he talked, you weren't really paying attention. You were kind of like, whatever. What's that about? And how did that inform your mothering of Gayle?
But I have to go back to the movie she made, Look at Us Now, Mother.
Yeah.
And Gayle will tell you, not once did I ask to see it. Not once.
Okay, but that's not what this question's about now.
She must have been nervous about
I
it.
know she trusted me. Quite the
I trusted.
opposite.
Oh, okay.
Completely trusted me.
And I felt at that time, I want to culminate some. I felt at that time, if this is going to help Gayle mentally, I don't care how she slanders me.
Okay, so that was a way of you connecting to your love for her that might have been in a different place earlier in life. It just wasn't in the place that she needed it to be, because Gayle needed something from you that she didn't get in childhood. And that's why she wrote this book. But you're now excavating all of that. So we're getting into a lot of how your mom acted, and then what tied into you having issues with food, and you talk about that. And then, of course, the hair and the nose. Now, the nose was something you did a film about it. You were always kind of nudged about your nose. And your mom has a very similar nose. You really do. I'm looking at your noses. Your noses are pretty similar. It doesn't bother you, Mildred. Your nose doesn't bother you, but her nose bothers you. Almost as if you're over-identifying. This is not a therapy session, believe me, but you're over-identifying with Gayle, right? So today, Gayle is bringing you into her sphere, and you're part of that. So that works because you're part of the world. She's made you part of the world. But the nose thing, which Gayle writes about very honestly, and she never did it. She never had her nose done because it wasn't her desire, it was yours. Now, you could look at it and say, I'm doing this out of love, but it really ends up being about you, doesn't it? It's how you think she should look.
Well, with the anti-Semitism that was around, I felt she wouldn't be identified as quickly with a small nose.
Well, it's interesting because the three things she harbored about were the stereotypical things that are typical Jewish. The bump on my nose, the curly hair. Oh, and the third, the first time I was on the Today Show, her first comment was, "You sound too Jewish. You need to go to elocution classes." And back then, starting in the 60s, 70s, and then it was 2002 when I was on the Today Show the first time, we weren't feeling the anti-Semitism as we are today. And I have to say, I resented it so much that why can't I be me? And suddenly now, with what's going on in the world, I understand it better.
But she was not able to express that to you. I think the difference would have been if she could have said, Gayle, sweetie, I love you so much. Let's sit down. There's a lot of anti-Semitism in the world. There are people who hate Jews for being Jews. By you having this nose, this is what I feel. So part of it is communication techniques. Maybe you didn't learn it, Mildred. You never knew it. You never knew how to do it. And maybe you're learning it now. Is she learning it now?
I don't know. I wouldn't say so, but I think it's how I react or respond. I wouldn't say so. I mean, my mom is very, very smart, but I'm very high in the EQ, emotional intelligence, and that's not her expertise because well, you hit something, Estelle. You hit right on something because she's of the secret generation. She's born in 1923. They don't deal with their feelings, and nor did her mother. She wasn't raised that way. She wasn't raised to talk and share about her feelings. So if she wasn't raised that way, she wasn't taught that way, how is she able to do it? We, the baby boomer, we're the first generation. We want to know why, what happened, what made you like this?
Yeah. And so you talk about kind of interviewing relatives from your grandmother to cousins to aunts to get a sense of what really was underlying some of these behaviors. So you did kind of an excavation in the memoir of your mother and your family behavior. And that's how you uncover a certain way that your dad was treated by his family when his sister came into the picture. And you even interview her, and she admits to kind of having been the princess. And then you take that and you realize that on some level, your mother wanted to protect the family from the way that your father reacted to being kind of abandoned. But again, it didn't end up well for you. And that's why you're writing this and why you're also building this whole kind of situation of trying to find forgiveness, finding forgiveness, and not being affected because she's not going to change. She's 102. She is who she is, and that's not going to change. You changed yourself. And I think that's what we see in the book. And you even share a poem from January 5th, 1975, Hold Me Tight, which is really just showing your need for affection and love and what you weren't getting from basically anyone in your family. And it's powerful. And I'll just read a few of the beginning part of it. Hold me tight. Hold me tight, please. Hug me, squeeze me, smother me with affection. Let me fade under your arms. I am starving for warmth. Right this minute. Tomorrow will probably be different, so be generous today. No, don't move away. Don't leave me now. I am crying for your gentleness, but nothing is coming out of my voice. You don't hear me. I can't scream. My eyes slanted. I mean, I want to read the rest of it, but it's so powerful because it just shows how you were feeling. And so you had lots of access to your journals, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I had a wealth of source material.
And what did that mean to you to have that access to find that childhood or that teenage or that 20 something voice?
A lot, because I not only had all my journal, I've been keeping a diary since I was very young. It was sort of the place I went, my safe place. So I had that. And then I also, those 8mm footage, even though it's silent, in 1982, I started my genealogy research. So I had interviews with people on audio cassettes in my family. My father was sort of documenting our life. So I had all these photographs. I had their World War II love letters. So I dug up a lot of things and I started so many years ago. So I believe I have written it in the beginning that I have some kind of PTSD with my memory. So I was really afraid about writing this memoir, and until I took classes where they said, look, these are your memories and you can say that. But I was grateful I had this source material.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt very, very lucky.
Sharing the letters that your mom and your dad sent each other, it showed a softness to you, Mildred, that we definitely don't see in your parenting of Gayle, but we see it in your early relationship with your husband.
Right?
These were the letters you wrote to Dad when he was overseas
Yeah.
in Guadalcanal or in the South. He was in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
Quite a good writer, Mother. They were beautiful letters, right?
Yeah, they were beautiful letters. Now, you talk about some very serious things in the book. I mean, medical things. You've had medical things. Your mother kind of inflicted medical things on you. And I'm sure you get this all the time, Mildred, and I'm sure you don't care. People may be prepared not to like you after reading some of the things that you have had your daughter do, like the unnecessary neck surgery.
But I come in now. We went to several doctors, and one particular doctor, I forgot his name for a minute, operated, I think, on Frank Sinatra's throat or something.
We went to doctors for a year. They all said, leave your daughter alone. This is so your listeners know it was enlarged
Yeah.
lymph nodes in my neck, and she became
Yeah.
alarmed. She was convinced I'm dying of lymphoma. She, in fact, told her friends. So every time I answered the phone, they'd like go, "Hi, Gail," as if I was dying. And I'd say, "Shirley, I'm hi, how are you?" And then every doctor said, leave your daughter alone. But she didn't give up until she found this doctor who was in his heyday. He operated on celebrities. He was flown in to operating kings and queens or whatever, but he was pretty old at the time.
And he said to me, you never know for sure until we go in.
You
Yeah.
were waiting for
So
that,
I
right?
did not do it because I did it out of love,
Yeah.
out of love with a capital L.
But the doctors were saying it's sort of like Munchausen by proxy. They're saying, right? It was a little bit like that. But let's move on from that. Now, where would you say the pivotal turning point in your relationship with your mother came about?
Well, when my father died, they were a big world traveler, so much that she opened up a travel agency back in the 70s. And I inherited that travel bug, always traveling. And one of my movies was invited to the Avion Film Festival, and I was here with her to help her out transition because she had gone from her mother's house to her husband. She had never lived alone in her life. She was a teenager when she got married. And when I got invited to go to the Avion Film Festival, I shared it. She goes, I'll come with you. And I was like, gulp. So there were many moments along the way, and that was a big one because now we were traveling together and she was coming into my life to see my world. But one big light bulb moment that I had was when I met a French woman who had a horrific childhood. And in her healing, she became a facilitator of a forgiveness board game, literally a board game. You throw the dice, you move your piece. Only thing I remember from that day is I landed somewhere. She said, stand up, close your eyes, and imagine your mother as a little girl. At that point, I had done all this research and I saw a wounded little girl. And then she said, and my eyes were closed. And now she said, now imagine yourself as a little girl. And I knew I was a wounded little girl. And then she said, now you come together. And that was huge because now I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but I saw my mother as a wounded little girl. And that was what helped me reframe how I looked at her.
So you no longer felt like a victim because you didn't give her that power, because you saw her wounds, and that somehow was what saved you. It's
Exactly.
not everyone can do that, but you were able to do it. And in fact, you've become a forgiveness coach as well.
Right. So I ended up, I became an accidental forgiveness coach due to people coming to me to teach my method. But it's because I did all that research to understand her. And I have to say something when I'm out there and I'm speaking and people know the things that happened in my childhood, and some of them are like shocked. Some of them are like, oh, I had it worse or whatever. And they say, but you seem so confident. Because literally I was criticized about everything from head to toe. I will say it's because even when I was below 5, because we lived in Queens and we moved when I was 5, I kind of felt like I wasn't doing anything wrong. This irrational rage was in me. And I used to want to know what happened to her as a child. I used to ask her brother, Uncle Sonny, what happened in your childhood? What happened to mommy? Again, the secret generation, no answers. You don't hang out your dirty laundry. My grandmother said, when you laugh, the world laughs with you. When you cry alone.
Writing this book, what was your impetus? Did you want other people to see your journey? Was it supportive to your work as an accidental forgiveness coach? Is it something that you just wanted to be your legacy with your mom? She's 102. What is the momentum behind it?
Well, it's because people asked for the book. When I would go out and speak, let's say I spoke at the APA, the American Psychological Association, and I would do a workshop or I'd talk or even screen the film, everybody would go down to the exhibition hall. They didn't want my movies, they wanted my book. And then I would query, do you want memoir or self-help? And they all said memoir. And I'm going to do the self-help book next because I did this book for one reason, to help people. That's the only reason I did it. I never planned on writing it. It was just my motivation is if I could help one person, I believe I'm helping more, but that's my motivation. So that's why I did it.
And what has come out of the book now? I mean, you guys are living together, you're her full-time caretaker. I'm sure you still have fraught moments together because that doesn't go away. You're not going to change, right, Mildred? I'm sure you're the first person to say, I am who I am, right?
What do you want me to change to?
I don't know.
Empathetic, just a few things.
Well, here's something. It sounds like you can now say that you love your daughter. To me, you've said it several times during the course of this episode. So I feel like whether that's part of your influencer status or whatever, you're
It's
able
true.
to say that now, which I think is
I am too vocal to lie.
okay. It's definitely about you and how you want to present yourself.
And
So we
if I
get it.
say I love her, I'm not making it up for you.
Absolutely not. So you're somebody who you're not going to change. This is how it is. And somehow it's working.
I would give my life for the son I lost,
Okay.
and for the other one who's sick, and for Gail. I went by age.
Okay, so Gail's in there.
I went by
Third.
age.
You're third, but you're in there.
I went by age. Would it matter if I say Gail first?
Probably to her.
I've become kind of her lifeline in a way because so a lot of people say how lucky I am, and I am. How many people have a mother who's 102 and look at her, everybody? She looks what, in her 80s, in the condition she is. And I say, you know what? I think the higher power, God, whatever you want to call, has kept her around this long because we got off to a late start. And I see the comments on our Instagram account or wherever I'm posting, how people are so thrilled to see this relationship who also know what it was like. And I hear so many people's stories that I never had the opportunity or whatever. So if we can inspire, and I feel like my job here, I joke that I wind her up and get her going, but
Yeah.
it's to get her out, because if I'm
Yeah.
not here, she'll spend most of her time in her bed, and unless she's playing cards. But it's like we were out 12 hours on Saturday and she wasn't tired. I was falling asleep at the movie.
And you're also both single and ready to mingle. No, I mean,
That's true. There's any single guys out there. She's a cougars, so she might take my guy.
oh my gosh. I mean, competition is definitely something addressed in the memoir. Would there be competition like that? Would you go after a guy who's interested in Gayle, Mildred?
I wouldn't go after any guy. I am happy with my living solo alone. I do not want to be a nurse with a purse. I don't want to do anyone's laundry. At this point, I am not interested in anyone.
But you and Gayle do go out. You do go out to happy
All the
hours
time.
together.
We're out all the time.
And when I sit at the bar, I'll say to someone, I'm not looking to pick you up. I'm 99 or whatever.
Well, now you're 102.
Now I'm 102, but I like to talk.
Take those years off.
So we have conversations.
And what do you want to have happen out of this book that Gayle wrote, Mildred? What do you want to see next for Gayle professionally?
Find someone
Professionally.
professionally. I want all her dreams to come true.
Well, that's lovely. That's a lovely sentiment to share. That's worth waiting 50 something years to hear.
And I want to be sitting across from Oprah one day talking about.
Okay. Help that manifest.
I'm trying to get to her. Even way back when the film came out, people are saying you've got to get to Oprah. So
yeah, I mean, I think that there are talk show hosts, maybe Oprah, maybe somebody else who has similar type relationships with their parents that can do that. You have a lot of pictures in the book.
Okay, so the top
That's in France.
That's in France. That's that's 2006 when I went with my film. Are those your parents? Oh, that's my father's parents underneath. And oh, look, the bottom one,
My
that is
50th anniversary.
50th wedding anniversary. I made a movie about that, a home movie about that.
And you had pictures earlier also showing your mom and you when you were a baby. And so there's a lot of photos. What was the decision to have the photos in the book? Because that adds an extra production cost, as you know.
So the book is divided into 3 sections. So when you finish one section of whatever number of chapters, then you have a little opportunity to see some pictures. I love seeing pictures. Every time I read a book, I get excited when I can, because I want, that's the person they're talking. Oh, look how I get it. I'm a big picture person, and obviously I'm a filmmaker, I'm a storyteller, so I like the visual. So yeah, I think it adds to it and my little commentary about it so people know when, where, what. What do you think? Do you think it adds to it?
I think it's interesting because, like, you can see clues to character through photos, and especially when you're using it to elaborate on a story, like your brother Erwin's bar mitzvah. And so I see your mother all dressed up, and she even had her hair kind of with a greenish tint. Although the photo's black and white, I can like visualize it and imagine it and see her in the dress. So I'm not finding those actual pictures, but I know that they're in here.
Yeah, they're at the end of the first section, right? So I
Yeah.
actually used my brother's bar mitzvah picture for the movie poster for Look at Us Now, Mother. Sometimes I joke about the Mommy Dearest story, the
Yeah.
Joan Crawford and Christina Crawford, right? And when it came out, she used to say, "Hi, it's Mommy Dearest," like owning it and loving it. And when I did the poster, she goes, "Oh, I do look like Joan Crawford."
I'm just showing, this is when you're a
Oh,
little
so-
in the
so
back.
that-
The kitchen.
Well, let me tell you, that's the day after my bas mitzvah. You can see I'm not a happy camper.
I would rather go to happy hour with Gayle than with my friends, because when I go with Gayle to happy hour, if I want to talk to this person, I do, and if she wants to talk to that one, and we don't get upset. When I go with, well, I use the word friends loosely. If I talk to this one, they get upset. You came with me. Why are you talking to them? I'm a free soul.
I see that. If Gail was to have someone in her life who was to be like, well, I don't know if you should spend all your time with your mother, how would you feel about that?
I don't know. I would have to adapt.
Interesting answer. Okay.
I would have to adapt.
I like
Because
that answer.
I have an ace in the hole.
What is that?
I live in a country club and we have a clubhouse. I could always go there because I will always find someone to talk to.
Okay.
But here's the story. She has the opportunity, like she plays cards in the clubhouse, to go down to the bar with her friends. And she doesn't. I'm sitting at a library trying to get work done. And I said, well, why do you go down? She goes, I don't want to be with those sour pusses. So
Well, she's choosing you. So that's
is
really
choosing me.
interesting. And you're very entwined with each other now in a way that you would have loved when you were a child, but you have it now.
But Estelle, you did bring up a really good question, because as much as I would like to meet my Bushert and I would like to have a partner in my life, I feel in a way I'm betraying her
Don't,
because
please.
She doesn't want you to feel that way. I don't think you should feel that way. You should have all the good that life has to offer.
But not everybody's going to want me to be living here with you, taking
Yeah,
care of you.
So what?
Well, you
She
don't
has
want
the club.
She
I
doesn't.
want you to have someone
She doesn't want
talk to.
She doesn't want to move to any kind of place. She wants to stay in her home. And we're going into another topic, but caregiving by the hour is very costly. She doesn't have
Yeah.
long-term care. So I'm sort of here. She says, you're my long-term care. So-
Yeah, but you shouldn't, but you still have your own life. That's the part of that I want you to feel. I mean, I'm not
Thank
giving.
you. So if there's anybody single out there,
There you go.
okay,
This
we're
is
putting it
adorable.
out. If you like her, that's fine.
Yeah, this has been great. It's been a pleasure talking with both of you, and I wish you all the best with your relationship, with your professional work together as influencers, and to the next step in your continually evolving relationship. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you for having us.
Follow me at EstelleSErasmus.com on my website and on social media, which is Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Estelle S. Erasmus. And we're now on YouTube for Freelance Writing Direct. Follow along, and soon everyone will be reading what you're writing.